Purpose is something that is really, really important to me. I spent so many years feeling lost and confused about what my purpose was, and I didn't even know where to look to find it. I struggled when I was in high school. I really didn't want to graduate from high school, not because I felt like I was irresponsible, but because I didn't know what to do. I went to college as a backup plan, and college was a struggle for me as well. I loved being in college and I got pretty good grades, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I even took a class on what career you should have, and I pretty much came up as lost as I was when I went in. So I went to 4 different colleges and I changed my major probably 6 or 8 different times. So I have an associate's degree in business management and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in business marketing. And I have about 3/4 of a mechanical engineering degree. So that tells you just a little bit of the things that I've studied in college. It's a wide range, right? Most of them really aren't even that related to each other. Then when I got out of college, I ended up working in marketing, and that switched over to digital marketing and social media. And now I am mostly an entrepreneur. I have this podcast, I write a blog. When people ask me what I do, I usually say I'm a writer because I wrote a book. So I feel like I am actually a writer now. Even though you are technically a writer as soon as you start writing, you don't have to have a book to be a writer. I wrote a blog for a year and a half before my book came out. So, I mean, as soon as you start writing, you're considered a writer, I feel like. So I tell you all that to let you know that I've struggled a lot. I've struggled so much, really, and I didn't really nail down what my purpose was until last year, which means that for 33 years, I was just kind of trying to figure things out. I felt like I was lost and aimlessly wandering around and just trying to figure out what the next thing was. A big piece of the puzzle, something that really helped me, was figuring out my personality type. But when I read about being an INFJ, part of it didn't make sense to me, which was helping other people. I never really felt this deep desire to help other people because I didn't know how I could help them. And I really, really don't want to disappoint people. I was always the person in my family who was helping, constantly. I was the one helping with dinner. I was the one who was doing the laundry and all the chores and things. I was great at being a helper that way. But when it came to business, I really wasn't sure how I could help people outside of just being a regular people pleaser, right? So that part of my personality was kind of confusing because I was like, I don't know if that's for me. I'm really just, I just really want to do something where I can go to work and make enough money to support the lifestyle that I want, just put in my time and be able to clock out and go home. I didn't want the responsibility of owning my own business. I didn't want the responsibility of worrying about where the money was going to come from, because I thought that it would be a struggle. I thought it would be too much. I didn't see the part where it's an exciting challenge. I didn't understand all of the independence that comes with it and how important that was to me until I was in a bunch of jobs that I really didn't like that much. And I had several bosses who would ask me to do things that I didn't agree with. And they wouldn't listen to my opinion. And I just kept getting put down and put down and put down. And I was miserable. Every single day I went to work, I was so miserable. And I thought, this can't be it. This can't be all that life is supposed to be, right? So I've been reading Evan's book, and part of it that is really important is Evan's book. It's called Built to Serve. There's a link for you to be able to get it in the show notes. But it's all about finding your purpose, right? And one of the big things that he talks about is your pain points. So I did one of the exercises in his book, and I wanted to share with you some of the pain that I've went through. And I wrote it down because I was that's what he said to do, but I was also really surprised at what came up, because I didn't think that it had been this bad for me until I wrote all of it down, and I'm like, wow. So one of the things that he says to do is to write down the biggest pain point that you have for every 10 years of your life. So I'm going to be 35 this year, so I wrote down 25 to 35, and I started writing down the pain points. And I realized that in 2010, I got laid off from my job. And then in 2013, I got fired from a job that I hated, but I still got fired. And then I realized in 2016, I got fired from a job. And in 2017, I got laid off from, well, in 2016, the job that I got fired from was like my dream job. And so I got another job in that same industry. 5 months later, I get laid off, and I lost everything, like everything. I got a job again where I was underemployed, and I hated the job. And just like maybe 3 months later, I got fired again for no reason. They just said, there's the door. So in the space of 10 years, I've been laid off twice and fired 3 times. And I mean, I knew it, right? But I'd never written it down and seen it. And it was like, wow, that's a lot. That's so much. No wonder I have so much fear and anxiety about my job. No wonder I'm terrified about losing my job, right? The worst part about each one of those situations is most of them were out of my control. It wasn't that I'm a terrible employee. It's not that I show up late to work or that I'm not good at my job. Because as an INFJ, who's a terrible people pleaser, I'm the one who shows up early and who does more than I'm supposed to do. So in a lot of those situations, you can't really help getting laid off, right? You can't help that the economy is in a recession. You can't help that a company that's 125 years old is downsizing. There's nothing you can do about that. The times that I got fired, I will really only claim responsibility for one of them. The job that I felt like was my dream job, I knew I was leaving, and so it only took them a week to fire me after I knew that I was leaving. There's one thing that connects all of those jobs, though, that I failed at so miserably. And the connection is I didn't really have a reason to go aside from money, right? I always struggled. Every time I would go to an interview, people would ask me, why do you want to work here? And I really wanted to say, well, because I need money, right? I have to pay rent, but that's not really an acceptable answer. So I would always have to come up with something else. But that was the real answer. That was why I needed a job. That was why I wanted to work there. But when people ask me about my business now, that's not the reason that I write my blog. It's not the reason that I do this podcast. It's not about money. It's about something that's a lot bigger and a lot deeper. That's the change that finding your purpose will have for you. You won't feel like the only thing getting you out of bed in the morning is Starbucks. It won't be coffee. You won't get up and dread going to work. It won't be something that's awful and terrible and horrible. That was me. I was like, every single morning I had to talk myself into going to work. I did whatever I could to survive. I ate at my favorite restaurants for lunch because that was like the halfway point of the day. And Friday was the best day of the week, especially if I didn't have to work Saturday and Sunday. And a lot of times I did, just to make ends meet. But it was just a struggle. It was difficult. And I was just waiting for the next time that something bad was going to happen. And now I know why, because there was a lot of bad things that happened to me in a short period of time. So the turning point for me was learning about my personality and making some big changes in my life to where what I was doing every single day, what I do every single day now, is way more in alignment with the person that I want to be and the life that I want to lead. And I realized that helping people is a big part of who I am. I realized that that was one of the pieces that was missing of why I hated my job so much, because I went to work every single day at all of these different jobs and I felt like I had no meaning. I felt like it didn't matter whether I was there, whether somebody else was there. It didn't matter. It had no impact on anybody, right? Once I was able to identify that and to make those changes, then I took that pain that I felt, that the pain of rejection, the pain of abandonment, the pain of not belonging, the pain of not fitting in, of not having a purpose, of not having any meaning or drive, and I turned that into something else. I figured out why it was that I was different, and instead of using that as a crutch and saying, well, I'm never going to have any connection because I'm just so different than everybody else, I use that as a way to help other people who are different as well. I want to educate myself about my personality. I want to learn and grow and be the best version of myself. And I want that for you as well. I know the big, massive difference that having a purpose and knowing exactly what it is and waking up to do that every single day, being excited to get out of bed in the morning. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like when somebody reaches out to you and says, you've really changed my life. I absolutely love the work that you're doing. Please keep doing it. I know how that feels, and I want that same thing for you as well. I've put together so many resources to help you so that if you're struggling the same way that I was struggling when I was in high school, or the 15, has it been almost 20 years since I've been in high school? Oh my gosh, I feel old. but I've put together all of these resources to help you so that if you're struggling, if you're in that same situation, you don't have to wander around in the dark and feel lost and confused. I put together everything that I've learned, everything that's helped me, so that you have all of these resources in one place. And it won't have to take you 20 years to figure out what you're supposed to do with your life. You can figure it out today. You can figure it out this week. And you can start to take action on it as well. So I wanted to tell you just about a couple of the things that I have. So just in case you're in this situation, you know where to look for the answers. The first thing that I wanted to tell you about is a workbook that I put together that's called The Complete Guide to Finding Your Purpose. This guide has everything in it that I use to help me find my purpose. It's a series of questions that will help you work through some of the big things that you need to think about in order to figure out what it is that you want to do with your life. The next thing is called the Purpose in Action course. This is a self-paced course that is an 8-week course full of everything that you need to figure out what your purpose is and to be able to take action on it. So there's lots of exercises, exactly like what you'll find in the workbook, but there's videos and worksheets as well. So there's a lot more content and a lot more information to help you work through what your purpose is, to get real clarity on it, and to be able to put it into action in your life every single day.